And hello, welcome everyone to this YouTube video on Linux Mint. Today we're gonna continue talking about the lifestyle, more light-sided side of Linux. Is Linux just for work? It doesn't have to be, because there are lots of lifestyle apps you can find out here. First and foremost, of course, I'll give you some of the things you can find inside the software store, and usually stuff you find in the software store, by and large, should work for Linux Mint Ubuntu or Linux Mint Debian Edition. So they're configured to run that way. Though for the Debian Edition, you might have to do a little bit of extra work here and there, depending on what hardware you are running. And of course, also because there's sometimes compatibility stuff. For example, Debian Edition likes to use the Linux kernel version 4. At least the Linux Mint Debian Edition likes to use kernel the 4th edition version 4 of the Linux kernel, whereas the Linux Mint 19 and 20, because now the 20 just was introduced. They like to use the latest version of the Linux kernel a lot more because they are based on Ubuntu. Okay, so anyway, I just want to start introducing you to some of the software I use, for lifestyle and fun. Okay, so first and foremost, you may have some of your stuff, like if you want to record your screen. One of the apps I recommend, or I like to use, is this app called Kazam, which I am very much using right now to record this video. And if you want to start, stop, or pause, you just look for this video icon over here, and you can see where the start recording, pause recording, and finish recording is. So that helps you to control, where your the recording of a video. So you can stop and pause, or pause halfway, and then you can finish it. So I like to use the pause button very often, because, well, sometimes when I'm recording a video, I might want to cough or something. So I will pause the video, cough, and then get back on. So that's a good thing about Kazam. Not so good thing is that you will have, let's say, you don't have a timer at the bottom right hand side. What do I mean a timer? Well, I want to make sure my videos are not too long, for example. So I like to have a timer. And usually if you're using Windows, I like to use this software called Wondershare Filmora. Very, very easy to use, very intuitive. And when they do a recording on the screen, sometimes there is a timer on the bottom right hand side, which can let you know how long your video has been going for. Okay, so but you can always have your own timer outside, your own stopwatch, and you can record, or tell yourself, I'm taking this long to record videos. So for video editing, on that note, if you like to do video editing of your holiday videos, or even to post on YouTube, I recommend I personally use OpenShot Video Editor. Now this is again, all of these are free, which is a very nice feature of Linux. OpenShot Video Editor really helps you to for example, cut your videos. So if you drag a few videos here, so if you go to home and you go to videos, this is where all your Kazam will just place all your files. Okay, you can find some of the OpenShot tutorials online. I'm not going to go through too much of it, but I do think it's a pretty good video editing tool if you don't know where else to start. Okay, so OpenShot and Kazam is what I use. Of course, if you want to meet friends, especially I'm recording this in 2020, so it's pandemic season, or COVID-19. You need Zoom, right? So Zoom is over here. You can find it in the software store. Doesn't have the best rating, of course, but it works. It's an old version in this because this is based on FlatHub or Flatpak. but it is stable and it works just nice. Okay, you can of course download the latest version here from Zoom US itself. Okay, Zoom US. Okay, and you can download it from that site. There may be a little bit more kind of a little bit more work you have to do if you don't want to install it via the software manager, because software manager will release stable software, but not necessarily the latest. Okay, so all of this should work on Linux Mint 19.3. That's what I'm using, but Linux Mint 20 has just been released. I have not tried it yet, but it is something that's worth doing. Let me see this cloud sync. Okay, I want to get rid of it. It's redundant from the last few videos. Okay, next thing. Well, for starters, there are a few gaming platforms you might want to use. Okay, and before that, one more thing. Spotify. Spotify is you can find it in the store itself. You can either do this the standard ones, or you can go for the flat hub ones. Both should work. Okay, both should work. But I chose this one anyhow. Alright. So just go for the one with the higher star ratings. That's my thought. I didn't really think too much about it. So you can listen to Spotify. You can do Netflix. You can I don't know. Do they have Disney Plus? Yeah, that's just... Oh, okay. They don't have Disney Plus. That kind of... What a pity. Oh well, I guess you can watch Disney Plus through your browser, if anything. Okay, so now on to games. Before I continue, let's talk about our graphic cards. Okay, so normally what when you download Linux Mint 19.3, it usually uses the integrated graphics by default. If let's say, okay, you have this laptop and then you have integrated graphics and an NVIDIA card. Now what normally will be done is that NVIDIA Optimus. Okay, NVIDIA Optimus is over there, it's there to help you, switch between using the discrete graphic cards and the integrated graphics card. So that's what NVIDIA Optimus does. Okay, so this is NVIDIA Optimus. It does GPU switching, though of course not by default. Linux Mint 19.3 likes to use this integrated graphics. But to switch to, let's say, a discrete graphics card, for example, you want to play something like Counter-Strike Global Offensive or some other higher intensity graphic game with higher intensity, you definitely want to put your graphics card to use, and you want to switch over to not Intel graphics, the dedicated graphics card. Okay, so to do that, there's some tinkering you may need to do if you are using older versions of Linux Mint or older versions of Ubuntu. Okay, so you may actually find yourself fiddling around with this thing called Bumblebee. However, I would say Bumblebee is actually obsolete, so don't go there. And what I did is that, hey, if I actually tried installing Bumblebee and I messed up my drivers. Okay, so what I needed to do is to go to recovery mode. Okay. Or before I talk about the solution, let me talk about the problem a little bit more. Yeah, so when I installed this Bumblebee, it kind of messed up my drivers, and when I tried to go to the login screen, it froze. So there was a workaround, or rather a fix for it, when I saw this in the Linux Mint forums. So basically, it tells you to if you ever find you have this freeze on the login screen problem, what you can do is you have to do this command: sudo apt install xserver-xorg-input-all. Okay, you have to do it with all the dashes. Okay, so this is what you need to do: sudo apt install xserver-xorg-input-all. with all the dashes inside. And you have to enter recovery mode first. I'm not going to talk too much about recovery mode here, but if you ever if you ever play with your graphics cards and drivers and you happen to have your login screen frozen for Linux Mint, this is one of the most common fixes, or this is the fix that actually works for me. I don't know if it will work for you, but in case it happens, I would say, maybe you want to consider trying, see whether this thing works. Okay, it may or may not work, but it's always worth a shot, if rather than you try to reinstall your whole operating system. Though of course that is easy, you kind of have to reinstall all your apps again and rclone and everything. So the way you probably want to switch it around is to enter these two commands. Okay, sudo apt install nvidia-prime. So nvidia-prime is what actually switches you from discrete graphics to integrated graphics and vice versa. So nvidia-prime. Okay, so obvious for me, my version has already been installed. So to use this, you have to type prime select, and then you press double tab. Okay, or you can just type help. Okay, prime select and then double dash help. Then this is the only thing you need to do. You can select the NVIDIA card, the Intel card, or the Query card. So there are two graphics cards I can use. One, I can use the integrated graphics, which is Intel, which saves power, or I can use the NVIDIA graphics, which is my dedicated graphics card. Of course, you have to install your drivers, which by default should have been installed when you install your Linux Mint, whether it's the Debian edition or the Ubuntu edition. Okay, so I can say prime select query, and it will say yes, I'm on NVIDIA now. I can easily just switch it to Intel, which I would do that, but it says this operation requires root privileges, meaning to say I need to do this as administrator. So root is kind of the keyword to tell you that I need to do this as an administrator, or in this case we call it root. Okay, so this will select the Intel profile. So my graphics now are being rendered with the Intel drivers, but and this will save energy. But I want the NVIDIA, of course. All right, so that's what you do. So if you ever happen to use NVIDIA Optimus, you have an NVIDIA card, and you need to switch back and forth with the Intel card, you may need to think about using prime select. Now, the special thing about Linux Mint 20, because I'm still using 19.3, it's called Oyana, I think. It looks like Oyana. Okay, so there are some of the things that are very useful for Linux Mint 20. So the nice thing is that when you have this, where is this? Okay, prime. Yes, okay. So what's nice about Linux Mint 20? So this is the correct place where you find new features in Linux 20 Cinnamon. So it's a long-term support to be supported till 2025, blah blah blah. One nice thing is that NVIDIA Optimus actually allows you to do this kind of selection straight from your taskbar over here, or your icons menu, and then you can run with the NVIDIA GPU if you want to. So this has a lot more of a interesting way of doing this. I mean, it comes pre-packaged out of the box with NVIDIA Optimus, which it doesn't require you to install this NVIDIA Prime straight out of the box. All right, doesn't require you to install nvidia-prime, like what I was telling you here. But if you're having an older, version of Linux Mint, this should help you to switch from Intel to NVIDIA. Note that this actually only works for NVIDIA cards. If there's an AMD chip or something, it probably won't work, because this is built by NVIDIA for NVIDIA cards. Okay, so haha, this is very cute. Clint Westwood, Denzel Chicago, Denzel Washington, Natalie Portman. Okay, interesting sense of humor. Anyway, this is some of the other features, but I just want to bring you to this feature over here.